The movie reviewed in this episode is rated R. Listener discretion is advised. How did they make it look messy? Well, is London just messy like that?
I don't know.
Is that just London?
I don't know.
Actually, one of the Letterboxd reviews.
It's like, that's just English people.
That's just London. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Scary Movie Nights podcast, a bi-weekly podcast where the scares are real, but the friendships are realer. Today, we will be discussing the 2002 modern, not-so-zombie classic, 28 Days Later. That's Mariana.
And that's Joan.
And we are your hosts for the night. But first, Mariana, let me ask you, what made you wake up from a coma this week?
I woke up from a coma this week because I ran a half marathon yesterday.
The opposite of being in a coma.
Yeah.
And I was like hesitating because I was like, comma, no, comma.
It's an ESL student.
You know what? It rests within me, and sometimes it comes out.
It comes out all the time for me. I say things weird constantly. But yeah, I ran
dude, that's so awesome.
I'm so proud of myself. Part of me thought I couldn't do it, and then I did it.
I wanted to show up for you because I was like, yeah, I'm gonna root for my friends, and then I'm like, cold parking. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna see them for like 5 seconds. Yeah. So I'm just gonna I'm gonna send them a text and congratulate them afterwards.
I wanted to advertise it, and I was gonna send I made an invitation on Canva and everything, and I was gonna be like, everybody show up, make a sign and be there.
Yeah.
And then I was looking at the parking information, and I was like, and it was free. It was 30 degrees. The high was 42 yesterday. So I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna make anyone do this. I told everyone, I was like, hey, please don't feel pressure to go. I even told my parents, I was like, you guys really don't have to come. You're gonna see us for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Park. They showed up though.
Oh my god, that's so awesome. Your parents showed up. That's so cute.
My mom, the crowds were crazy by the finish line, but my mom got to see me and Logan both cross the finish line, which was really cool. So we have a little tiny video of us. So that was really fun. But it was,
if you could
really
print
cool.
videos, it'd be like shadow box it. But obviously it's a little hard.
Yeah. I think in the future, now that I know, there was a lot of parts of the course where there wasn't a lot of people, where you could have just parked your car a couple streets away and then just walked up, said hello for 2 seconds, and then left, and it would have taken half an hour. But I didn't know because I'd never done this before.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, it was really.
Did you see any of the of the students there?
No, I saw them the day before. I saw some of my students the day before.
Okay.
Because there was a 5K the day before. So I think a lot of them were running the 5K.
Yeah.
And I saw them. I was there because I was picking up my bib for the race the next day. And so I happened to run into them that day, and we took a picture. They have it. I didn't get it. But
okay.
Shout out to my students.
Hey,
you know who you are.
Congrats, guys. I know who they are too.
Yeah. So they were
really
running
cool.
the 5K, and I think 2 of them, I was going to say names, but I really shouldn't. But 2 of them were running the full marathon, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And
the
I was
full
like, why
marathon
are you
is
doing
crazy.
Anything today?
26
you should be
miles.
Resting. But they were there, and I think a couple of other students were supposed to be running the half. I did see some of my coworkers, so some of the teachers run club.
Whoa, yeah.
I saw
the sponsors.
Yes.
Okay,
and I saw
that's
someone
really cool.
else. I'm not sure if I should just say people's names. Yeah, probably not.
No.
But I saw them. They were on my mile 12, so at that point I was fighting demons, and I ran up to them and I just yelled, "Hi!" And then I just kept running. And
That's amazing. You know what? I hope all y'all ate the hell out of some pasta the day before.
Oh, we actually did have pasta the day before.
Love that. Perfect.
Joan, what about you? What made you wake up from a coma this week?
So yesterday was my best friend Travis's birthday, and so he came over and we ate some wings. We went to Atomic Wings, which is a new place because we usually go to Wingstop, which I love. But Atomic Wings was really good actually. So we got some wings, and then he wanted to watch a scary movie, which was kind of random. Low-key, I think he did that for me because I love horror, and so we watched Drag Me to Hell.
Oh my god!
Which was so good. because we're reviewing that, in the near future. So he came over, we watched Drag Me to Hell, and we hung out, gave him his gifts, and it was like awesome. I just love spending that time with him.
I really like Travis.
Travis is who doesn't honestly like Travis?
He's
is
such
so
a
great.
Character.
He is a character. He's vibes. He's like so much positive energy. And in his birthday card, I told him like, thank you for like putting all these beautiful things in the world, and like thank you for letting me witness that. And I really mean that, Travis. I love you very much.
He treats everybody like they're his best friend.
Yes, he does.
So sweet that like I've met him I think twice, like hung out with him, and every time I'm like, oh my god, like I love you.
He's like, yes, absolutely. He's like such a beautiful soul. Yeah. So we hung out yesterday. So all three of us kind of did the thing at. He came over to our place, and we just like ate wings and watched movies, and it was great.
That's
like
perfect. Did he like the movie?
He was upset at the ending.
Oh yeah,
but I think he did have fun with it, and we'll talk about it. When we next time. Yeah, I think the episode will probably release in like a couple of episodes.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll hear his review. I'll ask him for a little review.
Yes. Can he take like a little video?
Like a little video. Yeah. So that's what woke me up from a coma.
Nice.
Yes.
Happy birthday, Travis.
Happy birthday, Travis. But enough about that. Let's go viral with 28 Days Later. By the way, you did such a good job because Mariana made the run of show this time. And I love that. It's great.
Did you like the rating?
I do. I actually love the rating. It's fabulous.
So for it.
The rating scale this week slaps, as they say. But anyway, so we'll get started. This is our no spoiler section. So if you have not seen 28 Days Later, I would recommend watching it, especially because 28 Years Later is coming out sometime this year. I think summer, right?
It's coming out nigh.
It's nigh. The release is nigh. So definitely I would recommend watching it. It's a cult classic, basically.
Yes, for sure. Especially in the zombie genre.
The zombie genre.
Zombie genre.
Yeah, zombie genre. So if you haven't watched it, watch it. But this is the no spoiler section, which you'll be fine listening to if you have not watched it. So Mariana, go ahead and take it away.
Perfect. So this is a no spoiler synopsis that I wrote myself because AI does increase your carbon footprint, and I'm just trying to save ChatGPT for when I really need it, which is when I make lesson plans and projects for class.
Use AI sparingly is what you're trying to say.
Exactly.
There you go.
So I wrote this one myself. 28 Days Later is a zombie thriller directed by Danny Boyle. It follows the story of a young bicycle courier, Jim, who awakens from a coma to find that an angry virus has caused the breakdown of society. Set in England, Jim and the allies he makes along the way must fight their way through infected and non-infected to find, quote-unquote, salvation.
I love that you put that in quotes.
Yes.
I love that, salvation. I forgot about that word.
Yeah. Okay, so some movie facts, so we'll just jump into the stuff I usually talk about. So this was directed by Danny Boyle, and he's also, some of his other films that he's made that stuck out to me because I've seen them are Slumdog Millionaire, 127 Hours, and Yesterday, which I haven't seen but really want to. Have you heard of that movie?
I have no idea what Yesterday is.
Oh my god, so it's about
127 Hours, to be fair.
Wait, really?
No, I don't know what that is.
I think 127 Hours like based on a true story, but it's got James Franco, and it's the one where he gets like stuck on a rock and he has to like saw his arm off.
Oh, yes, I've heard actually about that.
I've never seen it. I don't think I want to.
It gives me like very much anxiety
absolutely.
to be stuck and hurt somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I hate watching like
survival
movies. I hate those like plane crashes, getting stranded somewhere.
That's so funny. Like there's a thin line because we like horror films, but
but
stuff
I'm
like that,
so
I'm like,
not
too
about
real.
That's too real, bro. Like if I get stuck in a cave or something.
Yes, no.
Brian watched this movie. Brian, what was the movie that you watched about the girl gets stuck high up on the, like they try to climb this thing and
the
falling? Something
is it like two girls who are climbers?
Two girls, they climb this thing, but it's got a ladder and everything, and it's like super high up, but they get stuck up there, and I refuse to watch that. First of all, I'm scared of heights. Second of all, girl, I'm not climbing that. Fall. It's called Fall. Yeah.
we had it. We were
that was like, I'm not watching that, girl.
I agree, and I'll talk about things that scare me in real life later. I think I've got more things to say about that.
Okay,
later.
so 127 hours.
And then yesterday, I really want to see. It's this guy who, like, I think he hits his head or something, or something happens, and he wakes up in a world where no one knows the Beatles, and so he starts playing the Beatles songs, and he becomes super famous.
Of course,
because they're good songs. Obviously,
yeah,
so the movie's called Yesterday because of the Beatles song, and I want to watch it. It looks interesting. Now. He talks about being really intrigued by the concept of this psychological virus. So we'll talk more about the virus later, but this movie is sort of considered a zombie movie, but the director kind of mentions that these are not zombies. They're humans infected by this
rage virus.
Rage virus, yes.
Yeah. Because so, at the very beginning, when they're talking to the scientist, so the movie opens up with these people who are animal activists basically break into a lab where they're doing animal testing on something we don't know. Chimpanzees specifically, but they don't know what they're testing, so they try to release the chimpanzees, and the scientist who finds them breaking in, says, "Oh, they're infected," and they're like, "They're infected with what?" Rage is the specific word that he uses, which I find very interesting that they use the word rage. Yes. They're infected with rage.
For sure. And I think at first when I started watching the movie, I was like, oh, like that's got to be like metaphorical or something. But I think that's like literally what it's supposed to be, because I watched videos, like interviews with the director, and he says that this anger comes from social intolerance, and that this intolerance might escape and run rampant and kill people. And in the film, the monsters are us. So it comes out from what we are like as humans.
Yeah. As usual, like the zombie movie is not really about zombies, right? Mm-hmm. It's more of a commentary on people, society, etc. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Now, Boyle, as far as casting goes, at the time, Cillian Murphy was not
unknown.
Really, pretty much an unknown. He starred in indie films. Pretty much all of the cast, except for, I want to say, Brendan Gleeson. I think he was kind of well known. But Cillian Murphy, Naomi Harris, Megan Burns, who plays Hannah, Naomi plays Selena, they were like very unknown actors. And Boyle explains that this was like, they were trying to preserve this suspension of disbelief. So they specifically cast these unknown actors. So I think Murphy had been in some independent films, and Naomi Harris had acted in TV as a child and stuff like that. So it's kind of funny to look back, because of course we weren't as suspended in that disbelief because we know Cillian Murphy already from, he's now done
Oppenheimer
and
Peaky Blinders.
Absolutely,
he's been in stuff, for sure.
But I do love when movies do that. Like, one that comes to mind is the Blair Witch Project. It could just be anybody, like, and it makes the movie feels more real.
I agree, for
sure. So I do love that they went for that, although Cillian Murphy had to mess it up by going and getting famous. And
how dare you be an incredible actor, Cillian?
Dare you, Cillian?
Contain your talent, man.
Some themes in the film, and some of these I came up. So there is social aggression in society. So the director does mention a lot about like this anger that we sometimes carry, and you can see this in big cities, like when you're driving and you're in traffic or you're at the supermarket and everybody's trying to get somewhere and trying to do something. And I've definitely experienced this. Like, I'm not proud of the person I am sometimes when I'm driving. I'm not proud of the person I am when I'm merging onto 610 north from 59.
Do you get road rage? Are you raging while on the road?
I don't think I'm raging, but I definitely get really angry and annoyed at people. And I think it mostly happens whenever I'm behind someone at a light and the light turns green and they don't immediately go because I can tell that they're on their cell phone. I get really mad. I get pretty mad, and it's actually on my 2025 goals is to be a little more patient when I drive, specifically when I drive,
your goals.
Because there was just a couple times where I've done some like maneuvers that were maybe not the safest because I was just so stressed. And I'm trying to have this
offensive driving.
I'm trying to have this mindset of like, we're all trying to get home. Like, we're all trying to get home to our families. I think it's helping.
But I mean, some people are so dumb though.
Yes. Some people, I don't know how they got a driver's license.
I mean, like, really. And I think that's a problem, like, to kind of veer off a little bit, but I think it's a problem with a city that's not walkable and there's not enough public transportation, everyone has to drive essentially. And then so you get people who maybe they're not the best drivers, you know, whereas like if there was public transport or more walkability, they would opt to do that instead. Yeah. Because they are self-aware that they're maybe not good drivers, but they have to drive.
Or the convenience. I would opt for public transport if I didn't have to drive. Right. I'd be on the subway.
Me too.
Okay, so some other themes that I sort of came up with was, I think family is a really big overarching theme of the film. Yeah. There's a lot of like allusions to being a family, or like a question of what is a family. I think for like Selena's character specifically, we see this arc throughout the film. And I think it's like really interesting because in a way, or everyone who's living in this like post-apocalyptic scenario, like they've all lost family. And that's gotta be really traumatic. So we see this character Selena, she kind of at the beginning just looks out for herself, and she's like, listen, I will not hesitate to leave you behind. And she does at one point leave Jim behind, literally. And so we see this like really big change of considering people who are not blood as family. So like Jim, Frank, and Hannah. I also like, I don't know if this is a spoiler, but I want to talk about when Jim finally comes home and the picture that his mom, because I thought that was just so heartbreaking.
Yeah, we can talk about that later.
Yeah, we will. Also, I love when a zombie movie, which is like often done, like I love it whenever humanity is scarier than the literal monsters.
Yeah, exactly.
I think this is pretty common in zombie movies.
When we create a terrifying society from like the shambles of humanity, right? Like, yeah, it's scary. Yeah,
absolutely.
I have some thoughts on too.
Yeah, I'll talk more about it later, but like in The Walking Dead, like that's an example. Like for the first like 1 or 2 seasons, they're fighting the walkers, and that's the main like, you know, enemy. But then it gets to a point where like the people become the enemy, like the other survivors. And, like that's really scary. Okay, so for production of this film, so this began production in 2001, and I think one of the really awesome parts of this film is these shots of Cillian Murphy walking around a deserted London.
Oh my God, stop.
Which is amazing.
Okay.
And I remember watching and being like, how'd they fucking do this? Like,
that's
is this
true.
CGI?
Yeah.
But no, they would
in London especially.
Yes, they would get up really, really early in the morning, and they would close the streets for small amounts of time. Like I'm talking like 2 minutes, like 5 minutes that they would close streets just to get these deserted shots. Sometimes they would close them for longer. There's a shot in the film where there's this overturned double-decker bus, and it was set up and taken down in 20 minutes in front of Downing Street, which is where the Prime Minister like lives and works. So they were like working double time. They would get up super early to get all of these shots. Sometimes
I didn't even think of that, honestly, because I was thinking, I was like, it's kind of boring. I mean, like I understand why the shots exist.
No, yes.
But like from a production perspective, honestly, that's pretty fascinating.
And he was walking around London for a long time to the point where I was like, okay, I got it. I got it. And he said that they would set up like...
Can you start jogging?
It's like, you need to pick up your pace. Like, you're never going to make your time.
You're never going to make time here.
They would record for a few minutes, and they would just use, like, a lot of different cameras set up from different angles. So it would make you feel like you were moving around, and it would feel, like, a lot emptier. But really, they were just stopping traffic for, like, 3 minutes in order to get these shots really, really quickly.
But then how did they make it look messy? Well, is London just messy like that?
I don't know.
Is that just London?
I don't know.
Actually, one of the Letterboxd reviews.
It's like, that's just English people.
That's just London. But because it looks like trashed, you know? So I'm wondering how they got those shots if they just closed it for 2 minutes. Like, that's crazy. I mean, also, production magic. Yeah.
Also, there's this one scene during that sequence, and it's all these, like, missing persons flyers. And while this movie was filming, this was in 2001, so during the filming of this movie was whenever the September 11th attacks happened. And so there's like some parallels there between like the aftermath of September 11th and people putting up these flyers trying to look for their loved ones. But I think that was filmed prior to September 11th, because this movie came out in 2002. the following year. Now, the film ran out of money before the ending sequence was shot.
Whoa.
So what they did is they tried to edit the existing shots of the film, which included a character dying at the end, but it tested badly with audiences, so they asked the studio for more money, and that's how they were able to get their final shot. And I'm realizing that these are spoilers, so we'll come back around to
like cut that out a little bit, or we'll come back.
We'll come back, yeah, because I don't think I said anything spoilery so
far.
No,
okay, I don't think so either.
The screenplay was written by Alex Garland, and he took inspiration from George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead film series and John Wyndham's 1951 novel, The Day of the Triffids. I hope I said that correctly.
Do you know if, and that might be in your miscellaneous detail, but do you know if the movie made money?
Yes.
I'll
hop over to that part. So this released November 1st, 2002 to critical acclaim. It had an $8 million budget. It actually, I think it was dollars. It had an $8 million budget. It grossed $84.8 million.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Yeah, so it was a big hit.
Yeah, it really was a hit. People
for
really
horror
liked
movie,
it.
Especially.
For a horror film, for sure. Now, the music was composed by John Murphy, and it features songs from various artists, and it features a lot of, like, electric guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I think that's, like, the thing I pay attention to the least when I watch movies is music, and I think that I probably should.
But I did notice, too, though, that, like, and they did this a few times in the movie, they started off really softly, and then the movie, like, crescendoed for a while, and then, like, towards the end of that particular score, it was, like, really freaking loud. Like, you can tell, especially, like, at the very beginning when he's walking around London, whatever. Like, if you pay attention to that electric guitar riff, it starts off really soft, and I'm like, why is it so soft? It's like, ugh. But then, like, the more destruction and stuff that he sees, the louder and louder it gets. And I think it's really interesting.
Do you think that's, like, mirroring, like, what he's thinking of this, like, slight kind of muddled confusion? He just came out of a coma.
Yep.
And also, you see full frontal Cillian Murphy at the beginning of this film.
Is that real, or was it like a piece?
I don't know. I forgot to look that up.
Zane, I'm gonna look it up.
It's real.
Brian coming through. Okay, good for you, Cillian.
Shout out. That's crazy.
Excuse me. Oh my God.
That's crazy. But yeah, it's got to be him coming out of this coma, and he's like probably a little confused, and he's like, what has happened?
The first thing you see on Cillian.
Yeah. And then he's walking around London and realizing that, like, something really bad has happened. Like, I can't imagine psychologically what that must feel like.
Yeah. Well, first of all, waking up in that creepy hospital.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. Okay, so this film's success, so like I mentioned, it grossed way over its budget. And it launched this titular film series, so that includes 28 Weeks Later from 2007, and then 28 Years Later, which is scheduled for release this year.
Nice.
They hired an optometrist to help with the red eye contact lenses that the infected wear in this film, which I thought was interesting. And then I have mentioned that this is technically not a zombie film. I think I already talked about it, but these people are infected with a rage virus, and they're not actually undead.
They're not undead.
Yeah. I also want to talk about The Walking Dead, because when I watched The Walking Dead before I watched this movie, and then I was watching this movie, and I was like, that's exactly how Rick wakes up in The Walking Dead. Like, he wakes up from a coma in a hospital, and he doesn't know what's going on. So The Walking Dead, which I didn't know, but it's actually a comic book series.
Okay.
And the first comics were released in 2003, which was a year after this film. But the creator of the comics, Robert Kirkman, claims that he did not see 28 Days Later until after he had written the first chapter, where Rick wakes up from a coma in a hospital to find that zombies, walkers, had taken over the world.
To be fair, I feel like that situation is a pretty easy way of being like, this person wakes up and it's the apocalypse, and nobody knows what's going on, including that main character.
For sure. And then you're there with them as well, because you're watching this for the first time. But that is kind of where the similarities end. Like, I think from there, like, both stories like completely go different ways.
Yeah. Because Walking Dead is literally the undead, like zombies.
Now, this film had several alternative endings. Like I mentioned earlier, they ran out of money. They went through their budget. And so I think when we go over to the spoiler sections, I'll talk about some of those alternative endings that they came up with. Now, this film has an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I feel like it's pretty respectable.
Pretty good, yeah.
It's pretty good, and I think everything else I want to talk about contains...
A little spoilery. Spoilers, yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's do that. So, audience members, please make sure that you've watched this movie if you care about spoilers before continuing on the podcast. This is going to be our spoiler section, so definitely I would recommend watching the movie. Would you recommend watching the movie more?
Yes, I would recommend. I really like this movie. Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So definitely watch the movie, then come back and listen if you haven't done it. But yeah, so we can start our spoiler section. Okay, so what'd you think?
Perfect. Okay, I really love this movie. And I want to just immediately hop back over to the themes that we were talking about. Yeah. And I want to talk about the soldiers in the mansion. I want to talk about how, because I mentioned a theme earlier of family, and like you can see that within, like, you know, Frank and Hannah, and then Jim and Selena. They become sort of a family. Frank but the soldiers in this mansion are also like a family. Yeah. Like they kind of play with each other, and they like mess with each other. They're like brothers would. And then the captain, or whatever his name is, he also like has this like fatherly like energy. So I think it's just like this search for community in this like world where society has fallen apart. So I think that's super interesting. Now, I did mention that there was a bunch of alternative endings, so I'll talk about those. So in one of the endings, because at the end of the film, Jim is shot. And so the original ending that they made when they ran out of money was him just dying from his gunshot wounds, but that tested...
And then it ended there?
Yes. It tested badly with audiences. People did not like it. So they went back and they showed the studio, and they were like, hey, this is not working. So they gave them more money. And so that's where they filmed the scenes where they're like at a cottage and they're like trying to spell out help with sheets.
Yeah.
And I did read online. I thought this was really funny. But they hired a jet to fly over because it was cheaper than using CGI to make the jet, which I think makes sense. I guess so. Cheaper.
Yeah.
Okay, some of the other alternative endings, let me see. So Jim dies of gunshot injuries. In another one, he dies of gunshot injuries, but then he also kind of like dreams about the accident where he first went into a coma, because he's a bicycle courier. So I assume he got hit by a car, went into a coma. And then there's one which was only on storyboards, so this one was not shot. But in this one, Frank is not immediately shot when he becomes a zombie, or when he becomes infected. But he gets captured and held, and they eventually find like a research facility, and they do some sort of blood transfusion with Jim, and that saves Frank. But I think it would have killed Jim. So I don't know if it was like a full blood transfusion, like get all the blood out, or I don't know how that would have worked.
Whoa. So like they were thinking of sacrificing Jim. Yeah. He becomes like the martyr.
Yeah. Yes. Now, I'm happy with the ending. I like the ending.
I like the ending that they went with, to be honest with you. I don't like the one where he dies. I think that's a kind of a dumb like thing. Especially because I feel like Jim essentially becomes Batman at the end. Did y'all feel that was same way? He was like the Dark Knight.
Yes.
Like jumping on roofs and like coming out of windows. And like...
so interesting that you brought up, because so this is a rage virus. And in the last few scenes, because Selena and Hannah are in danger, like these soldiers are essentially trying to use them to like procreate / have sex with them.
They're sex slaves.
These women. And they take Jim out to kill him, and he gets away. And this whole sequence, like, he looks like an infected.
Yeah.
Like, except for the eyes, like, all of his mannerisms, like, the way that he moves, like, he looks like he's infected.
To the point where Selena, like, actually goes for him because she thinks he... Yeah.
They both
because she thinks he's infected. Yes. And he, steps forward. Yeah. He steps forward, and they see the eyes are clear, and then they stop.
Yeah.
Right before she like hacks him up or whatever. Yeah. Which was so dramatic. Yes. I was like, oh my God, he could have just said something, like, because they can't talk.
They can't talk. But
Jim was like, nah, I'm a step forward.
Yes. Both Selena and Hannah, because then when Selena realizes that he's okay, they kiss, and then Hannah thinks that he's biting her, so she smashes his head with a vase. So, and it's like, I think because he's exhibiting rage, he kind of looks like them, because he's trying to protect these people that he considers family.
That, like, we don't need a virus to exhibit that kind of rage.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes. And he like kills several people.
Yeah.
And it's
although we're bad people.
They were.
I mean, okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is where it gets ambiguous, and like, are they bad? Yes, they are trying to basically enslave these women and like rape them, which is bad. Bad. You also have to think about like the state of the world that they've been living in. Like these men literally were about to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Right. And the only thing that gave them hope is that procreation, like, oh, there are women, there is a future.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying like they were right in enslaving these women, because that's horrible and they got what was coming to them, but like I think from their perspective, like they were trying to do something good for humanity, you know what I mean, which was interesting. And it's like very interesting social commentary when it comes to like an apocalypse and like how society breaks down and like civility. So like I'm so sorry to like have interrupted your point.
Do it.
So did you ever read Lord of the Flies?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever read like Heart of Darkness?
No, I haven't.
Joseph Conrad, I think, is the author for that. So in my high school English AP, I served Miss LeClaire, if you're out there somewhere listening to Scary Movie Nights podcast. Know that you like changed my life with these literature, like these texts, because like the breakdown of civility and like social norms is such a huge theme that we like, that a lot of movies observe. It reminded me a lot of these books because like as society breaks down, our social norms go away.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Like people do monstrous things
to survive,
and they justify it
absolutely
to survive or to continue the human race or what have you, right? And I think that this was a very strong commentary on that, to where it's like these are the things that we'll do to each other, given the right incentives, if you will, and we will justify them
absolutely
as correct.
And I think it's also really interesting. That's a really great segue to talk about, because something I wrote down in some of my opinions was like, how long does it take for people to do that? Because in this movie, I mean,
28 days,
that's not very long for these
men
to go like, we need to procreate and like repopulate.
You're right.
And like that's super, super scary. But when you're in these, I mean, I can't imagine like the fear and adrenaline and like what that does to you and your psyche. And it's crazy to think about.
I kind of want to talk about the rain. No. I'll talk about that later. I want to talk about the rage virus. I want to talk about the rage virus.
Let's do it.
Because it's, like you said, they're not zombies. They're not undead.
No.
They are actual living humans who have been infected by a virus that, like, for some reason activate, like, they literally see red.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just rage.
Yeah.
And then they kill each other and it's bad. It's really interesting to me that although they are enraged, they don't attack each other. Because if they're just mad and raging, don't you think they would attack each other? Like they would just kill anything on sight that moves, right?
No, I agree. I think
they don't.
It's got to be about like, and maybe there's a metaphor there about like spreading this rage. Yeah, like about like.
No, I absolutely think you're right.
Yeah.
It's like insidious, and it's almost like when we form cults, and it becomes like us versus them.
Yeah.
Like us versus the people who are enraged, and you don't see the other people's point.
Yeah.
You're like, they're just crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
You're seeing it through like, literally different eyes.
Literally, but like now think about the people who are enraged and they see each other as allies.
Yeah.
But then other people know they're the ones we have to attack.
Yeah, they're family.
So do we? Yeah, exactly. So do we like tribalize ourselves, separate ourselves from each other, and then refuse to see other people's viewpoints? Now in this movie, they're literal like murder goblins, right?
Murder
like
goblins.
like they will kill you and they will. But like I think it's interesting to see the way that like when you're when you're what's it called, indoctrinated into an idea or an ideology, you stop becoming reasonable to people other than yourself, and other people stop being reasonable to you, and you only see enemy.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks volumes to especially America today. Even though this is like set in London,
2002,
and set in 2002, imagine in 2024 the relevance of the idea of tribalization.
The commentary from the director was literally like, yeah, like in society today, like we have this intolerance. Like this was 2002.
Yeah,
I'm like,
2002.
Sir, I'm so sorry we still have it.
And now we have,
I think it's worse.
Yeah, and now we have social media to exponentially increase that tribalization of people and ideologies. And man, I just, this is a great movie because it really puts a mirror up. And there was a scene where Hannah, the girl, she is holding herself up on the back of a mirror. And one of the people who are enraged comes up to the mirror, looks at himself, and for a split second you see that he's recognizing that he's no longer who he thought he was, or he's no longer like human or whatever you want to call it. She's literally holding a mirror up to him to see the rage that he's exhibiting. And that moment actually gave me chills because I was like, oh my gosh, she's literally holding a mirror up.
I love that you brought that up too, because in the movie there's a lot of shots like that they take like in the reflection. Like they use a lot of like glass reflections where you'll see like one character and then you'll see the reflection of a different character. And I think that's really interesting. And I think you can also think about, ultimately, like, these are humans, even if they're infected by this virus. And I think we are social creatures and we search I personally like search for community. And I think maybe the zombies are trying to infect other people because they want their community to be larger. Like, it's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And, and the soldiers are doing monstrous things to increase their population too. Like, they want women to have sex with so they can, well, first of all, like sex, especially, I think, well, for humans in general, it's so instinctual, you know what I mean? And the need to procreate too. So like we can grow our numbers. Like it's and that's a religious thing too. Like think about like Catholicism and Mormonism as well. Like sex is only meant to be used as procreation. And in the Mormon church, especially, so low-key, I was Mormon for a time, but that's a story for another day. That's for another day.
Some lore.
Some lore.
Joan
I'm dropping a little bit of lore here. Some clues about my real identity. No. So, like procreation is extremely important. Like your entire goal for being put here is basically to replenish the earth. And so you think about these tribalization of like the men in the military, they want to have sex with these women so that they can procreate and leave progeny. Religion also has a lot of those same themes of like, basically using women, so that's a very interesting point and theme that I thought about, like the rage virus being like the vehicle through which people are indoctrinated into these different tribes. And I don't know. What do you think about that? Am I reaching? Is that dumb?
Okay, so I'm going to bring up something else that I think it's like an allusion to religion. And it's at one point at the very, very beginning of the film, like Jim's walking around London and he's like walking into a church. That's his first encounter with an infected. It's like a priest who he like smacks and he's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Father.
I should have done that.
It's like, girl. But he's walking up the stairs and on the wall it says the end is extremely nigh, and that's like, it's like a Bible thing. It's like the end is nigh. It's the like apocalypse. And so I think it's like interesting that you brought up religion because of that, and you see that at the very beginning, like within the first 10 minutes of the film starting. Also, on the theme of family, like something that I didn't mention earlier because it was a little spoilery, but I thought it was like the scene where, because Jim meets up with Selena and then another dude whose name I forgot because he dies very quickly.
I remember. We'll call him Noah because...
Wait, no, he's got to be in the cast. Hold on.
Yeah, he is.
Let me see.
Activist.
Oh, Noah.
Noah.
It is Noah.
Noah.
Wait,
what?
That's a biblical name.
Hello, Noah. Yeah, Noah was supposed to build the. He was supposed to build the freaking ark.
Yeah.
Where like the flood came and everything was destroyed, but only a select few. Maybe Noah was the one who built the ark of the relationship between them.
Selena kills him right away. She does not hesitate to kill Noah. She did not hesitate.
She was like, oh wait, a little bit of a speck of blood on him.
Yeah. But so Jim meets up with Selena and Noah. They kind of save him. And then he's like, I really need to see my family. Like, I need to go to their house, like my parents. And he walks up and immediately, like, he can smell them. Which is like, okay, because because we were watching this film with some friends and he walks into this church and it's literally like infected and bodies. But he has no reaction. And we were kind of like, wouldn't he smell something? And
yeah, he would smell it from like a mile away. Well,
I was thinking like if the infected aren't really dead, then they wouldn't be rotting.
That's true.
But not everybody in the church was infected. But not everyone stood up. So still, why didn't
there were definitely some dead there.
He walks into his own house and immediately, like, he covers his nose and you can kind of tell what's going to happen. Like, his parents are dead and they've committed suicide and his mom is holding a picture of him when he was little. And on the picture, it says, like, we left you sleeping. Please don't wake up.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just so sad and so heartbreaking. And so he's immediately like lost his family and his family lost him also. Like, they gave up hope essentially because his parents were not killed by infected. They show immediately after like some pills, like, so the parents like, you know, took their own lives. So I think that's like really interesting to set up these themes. And later on in the film, like at one point they meet Hannah and Frank, who are father and daughter. And they, you know, embark with them on this journey on this little cab to find salvation. And at one point, they take, is it Valium?
Yes.
And he's like half asleep, high, and he's having a nightmare. And Frank sort of wakes him up and he's like, hey, you're okay. And he's like, thanks, Dad. And then goes back to sleep. And that was just so heartbreaking.
Yeah. You could tell they were like very much a family unit. And the breakdown of that unit was so sad. And I want to bring up one point before we move on to our next section. The kiss that Frank gave the horses.
Yes.
Like they're free. They're a family. They're free.
Yeah.
That broke my heart too, because you know he wanted that for his daughter and his family to like be free of this and just run wild, right?
Yeah, I have that in my the good.
My God.
But yes.
Anyway, so let's move on to the next section, which is the good, the bad, the spooky. Mariana, you're gonna start us off. What's your good?
Okay, so my good, the scene with the horses.
Beautiful.
I think it really brings home this theme of family. It's one of my favorite shots. And it's like right after that Jim calls Frank dad. And I feel like you see just a little bit of joy in this scene. Selena as well at the beginning, she kills Noah like outright, like no hesitation, and she lets Jim know. She's like, hey, like I won't hesitate to kill you, like if you're holding me back, like, or if I suspect anything, like you're done, like I'm looking out for me. And whenever they first,
like survival is the only thing you look forward to.
And when they first meet Frank and Hannah, they're going up these stairs and Jim just came out of a coma, so he's not in very good shape, and like she's willing to help because she stops and she's giving him a soda, but then they hear infected and she immediately starts running and leaves him behind, and he's like, wait for me, and she doesn't. And you can really see like the change that she makes, like from that to the rest of the film.
To when she literally saves him from his gunshot. When like she rescues him, whereas the original Selena would have just left him.
And she's looking out for Hannah as well, a lot, especially after Frank dies. So I think that was like kind of beautiful. I also thought the acting was really good in the movie. I
You're right.
All the shots of like London deserted were so like cool and impactful, and although it felt like a very long sequence, and it kind of was long, I feel like if I went through all this trouble as a director to like wake up early at half and like hold people back for 2 minutes so I could get one shot, I would want to put all of it in the movie. So honestly, no issues there.
You're right.
I also really just love all the wholesome bits, like the supermarket shopping scene.
Oh yeah,
like that was really cute.
When Frank's like geeking out about some liquor, the bourbon or something, and Jim just walks away.
And then it's also really sad, like the parallel of like Jim being really excited about it and he's talking about it so passionately. I don't think he ever gets to drink it.
No, and the freaking captain guy drinks
he's
it.
The one who gets to drink it.
That was one of the things that pissed me off the most, because I was like, bro, really? Like you're just taking these people's supplies and you're gonna.
Also, I don't know if we're like, I think I forgot to write about it and you mentioned it, and the rain.
Oh yeah.
The rain, like whenever they were stuck in the apartments, Frank was just waiting for rain, and you see this roof and it's covered in buckets.
Yep.
Like, and he's like, it hasn't rained in 10 days.
He's like, in London.
Yeah, in
of
London.
all places.
And it finally rains again at the end of the film.
Yeah. I love that. It's when his friends and his daughter are in trouble.
Yeah.
The rain comes. And I'm like, that's such a symbolic thing of like, Frank is here and he's gonna help.
Yes.
Because it lowers visibility, so Jim can sneak in.
Yeah.
You know, I also feel like it represents something, like it's water,
like
you know,
a cleanse,
so like cleansing,
yes,
like a cleansing,
absolutely.
or like new life or new growth.
Yes.
So I love that little thing.
Those are all my goods. What about your good?
So I definitely love when Jim becomes Batman. I love that so much.
He becomes Dark Jim.
He becomes Dark Jim. He does. But it's like a weird duality, right? Because like we see both of these things in Jim throughout the film. Like we see the humanity in him when he's like, I can't believe you killed Noah. La, da, 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 da. When he's like pleading for Selena to like allow Frank and Hannah to like come with them. Like you can't just leave them.
Or when
like,
when he's pleading for her to like wait for him. Like
yeah,
she's
or wait for him. Wait for me.
Yeah.
No, you can't leave them. Like I know what you're saying, but like they cannot make it without us. Like we have to help these people.
Yeah.
But then you see like dark sides of Jim where not only the ending, but like when he goes into the gas station by himself and he kills that boy.
Yeah.
You know, and I think he might actually realize that like these are not undead.
Yeah.
They are like just people that are infected with this
Yeah.
thing. Now it's you versus me, and like one of us is gonna die, and like it's gonna be you, even though you're like 10.
Also, I just had a thought, but you said like, you know, he says, you know, Hannah and Frank need us.
Yeah.
But I think just as much like Selena and Jim needed them. And I think Hannah mentions that, but like after seeing the whole film, I'm like, absolutely. Like absolutely, Selena especially like needed them.
But like you see Selena's side though, where she is like, no, we're not taking them at all. Like they're slow us down. No.
And I get that. Yeah.
And Jim is like, you cannot leave these people here. And so you have this like duality of man, of like civility and humanity versus like just rage and savagery. Exactly. Which takes me back to Lord of the Flies and the Heart of Darkness, where you explore like the duality of man and what happens when social norms break down. But I really liked that duality in Jim. I think it makes him a really well-rounded character. And ultimately, I think it makes him a great protagonist. I loved The Rain as well. I think that's really great too. The acting, you're absolutely right. So you made some really good points there. I love this movie is really good. Yeah. Like there's a lot of good in this movie. Now, what's your bad?
Okay, my bad. The chimp scenes.
Oh yeah.
I think I get that they wanted to establish this virus, this like rage virus, this like angry virus, but it felt almost like detached from the movie. I don't know.
Oh, like the very beginning, you mean?
Yeah, like the very beginning sequence where they like the activists go into like with the chimps.
I feel like a lot of origin zombie movies though have that same, like for Resident Evil, for example, like you have like the testing of the thing, and that's when it gets out. It always starts with a lab.
Yeah.
You know?
So I guess one of my favorite zombie movies is World War Z.
Okay.
And in that movie, like so many parts of, like the whole premise of that movie is like they're trying to figure out how it happened, and so from the beginning you don't know. No, and it's not a lab. No.
Okay, wait, don't tell me, because I literally do not remember World War Z. I watched it once and I do not remember.
It's not. So that was
part of
just
it.
Me personally. It felt like really detached from the movie. It was my least favorite part of the movie, and I feel like if you took it out, it like wouldn't really make a huge difference, because the movie is so much like not well. I guess it is really important to know about the anger. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think that's probably why they put it in there.
But I was researching.
There is another way. You could have Selena say that.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, it's rage.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I understand what you mean.
Or they encounter like a surviving scientist or something.
Yeah.
Maybe just like, I don't know, something more creative. But
true.
I was researching, and then I was like, oh wait, I forgot that happened in the movie. And we watched this 3 days ago. Now it's really
interesting going back into the tribalization and like the indoctrination, you versus me.
Yeah.
The activists are people legitimately wanting to do something good.
Yeah.
Like they want to free these animals. They want to help.
Yeah.
But ultimately it's their actions that started this whole thing. So it's almost like through like good intentions, you know.
They also beat up the scientist. that's
Yeah,
like
they
trying
did.
to tell them. She's like, hey, don't.
No good deed goes unpunished, sort of thing.
Absolutely. Also the camera quality.
Girl, you know what? I'm gonna jump in with that because that's like my biggest bad.
Yeah.
I hate the quality of this film. I hate it so much. And I read somewhere that it was intentional at the time.
Yes.
To like, make it look like a little more apocalyptic, blah blah blah. But it aged horribly.
Yes. So,
I wish they had not made that decision. Honestly.
Okay, so what I wrote is the camera quality. It's bad, but I know that it was on purpose, and I don't think it takes away from the film.
I disagree.
I liked it.
It took away from me. Yeah, I did. Because I was like, I wish I could see what's happening.
Especially in the dark scenes, I will say.
Yeah, I was like, I wish I could see what's happening in the rain. I was like, how many pixels is this? 3?
How many? Well, I want to get to some of the letterbox reviews in a little bit. So I'm not going to say it yet. But okay, yeah, I'll go on to my next bad. The changing of the tire. Has anyone ever changed a tire? I've changed several tires.
One tire, exactly one tire in my life.
Okay, how long did it take you?
A million years.
It takes a while to change a freaking tire, and they change the tire in like 3 seconds, and they waste so much time.
I feel like Frank went through like a drill with Hannah. Like, okay, Hannah, we gotta time you. These are time drills. Because she did that.
Yeah,
she did the thing. And also rats.
Yeah, rats.
That was horrible.
Rats. I love rats. Okay, the last bad I have is Frank's infection. I loved him. I thought he was a really great character. I love the scene where he like kisses the horses.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really sad that he got infected and died. And I was just so mad that he got infected in such a stupid way. He like looks up and like a single drop. And I don't know if you've seen Broad City, but it's reminiscent. There's this episode of Broad City where Alana is just walking around New York and she gets pink eye because she looks up and like an air conditioner drips right into her eye. And so that's all I could think of when I watched this
Dude,
scene.
I need to rewatch Broad City because I did watch it, but it was a long time ago.
And the shot is
so
like damn
good.
near identical. Like it's just so funny. So that
honestly,
it was my bad.
So it's really funny because the reason he got infected was he lost his temper.
Yes.
And then he like kicked the thing and then he became infected.
Yeah, he got angry.
And that was, I think, a metaphor for the slippery slope.
Yeah.
Of like,
That's so interesting. That is, he got so angry. I mean, because he had such high hopes and he wanted to make sure his daughter was taken care of.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
So, and no good deed goes, like he has good intentions. He wants to take care of his daughter, but then that led him to being infected.
Yeah.
So I think that's a lot. Look, I'm going to say this with lots of love.
Okay.
Especially like the current political climate in America, right? Mm-hmm. I truly believe that most 98%, probably 95% of people truly believe they are doing good.
I agree.
Truly believe that they are doing what is best for themselves, others, their children, their family, etc.
Yeah.
How that pans out is another story that has yet to be told. But like, I think this, like Frank being turned in that way is very telling of that specifically, to where it's like, I want to take care of my daughter and I lost my temper and now I'm making bad decisions. Anyway, I feel like that
I love that you brought that up because I think about that constantly. We live in like obviously a very like bipartisan country,
so fractured,
and sometimes I'm like, how can people think this way? And then I'm like, they think they're doing the right thing and they think that I'm doing the wrong thing, and that's just crazy to me. Like it's just it's really hard for me to wrap my mind around that, right? Because I mean, and
then that goes back to like the us v them, and like, you don't seem rational, like you're trying to do this bad thing, but like they probably see it the same way. So anyway, so I don't know how to fix it. It is what it is. What's your spooky?
Okay,
that was my bad, by the way. The quality of the film. Okay. Also the beginning was really slow, and I thought there would have been a more interesting way to do that, but it is what it is, and we got through it, and the rest of the movie is good.
Okay, my spooky, the men wanting the women for procreation / recreation.
Yes.
Like I mentioned, okay, like whenever they got to that house, I was like, my first thought was like, I'd be afraid to be a woman. If I were a woman, I'd be afraid to be among all those men. Like, except for Jim, obviously. But from the beginning, as soon as they got to that mansion and I saw that it was all men, I was like, oh, no. So it was really scary. Also scary, the fight for survival and like what that drives people to do. Like, I don't know. I like to think that maybe situations like this would bring people together, but I mean, people like quickly go feral and go crazy and become selfish. And I mean, we see this at like grocery stores, even like whenever
during
there's
hurricane
a freeze or a hurricane or anything,
fighting
like
over
that.
toilet paper, etc. We know the stories,
so
right?
That's all like really, really scary.
So for me, the zombies are freaking crazy, bro.
Yeah.
The zombies, this like redefines zombies because they're usually like slow and ambling.
Fast zombies.
Girl, 28 days later had fast as hell zombies. Fast as boy, like like literally these zombies were crazy and I really enjoyed them. They revolutionized the zombie genre, to be honest with you.
No, they did.
I don't know if they were the first ones to have fast zombies like that. Probably. But I love the zombies. Yeah. You know, for lack of a better word, zombies. The Ragers, whatever you want to call them.
I love the red contact lenses.
The red contact, that was such a great design choice. That was such a great. And men are the scariest part for me. I totally agree with you.
Absolutely.
to extend the bear or man in the woods conversation, would you rather be stuck with a rager or a man in the woods?
A rager.
Like literally because so like one of the things that I wrote on my spooky was that exact thing because we know what the zombies
we know
about.
The threat that they pose.
We know the threat that they pose. The fact that we as human beings can turn and betray each other, I think is worse than a zombie that you already know just wants to like eat your brains or kill you. At least you know that's where they're going.
At least they're upfront about it.
At least you know that they won't turn you into sex slaves, which in my opinion is worse than dying, to be honest with you.
No, for sure.
So, you know, like that for me was like the spookiest part of the film. So
we're pro-zombie.
Pro-zombie.
And against men.
No men allowed. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's rate this movie.
Yes.
Let's rate this. And Mariana, I'm so proud of you for thinking of this. So everyone, please comment on how much you love Mariana because she's great. Let's rate this movie and how nigh the end is. The review will range from not very nigh, so far away, to extremely fucking nigh. So not very nigh, somewhat nigh, extremely nigh.
Extremely fucking nigh.
Extremely
which is
fucking
what was
nigh.
on the movie.
So what is how nigh is the end for you, Maria?
My rating is extremely nigh and a half.
Okay, extremely nigh and a half.
Extremely nigh and a half.
Wait, is the highest rating? It's here. The end is here.
It's now. It's like it's already happened.
It's right now.
What about you? What would you rate it?
So I would rate it somewhat nigh.
Okay.
Somewhat nigh.
Somewhat nigh.
Yeah. Like I can see it, but it's still in the distance. Okay. Yeah. I thought it was a good film. I thought it had a lot of really good social commentary. I hated the quality. I think that was a bad choice, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In my very humble, non-movie producer, cinematography person opinion, I hated the quality.
Yeah.
And then there were other like slow decisions that
they need to remaster it.
I feel like it needs a little bit of love.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it does. But, you know, it was still a good movie, and I would highly recommend people to watch it because it's just such a cult classic. And it's a cool zombie movie. It's just cool.
I really liked it.
Yeah.
It was cool. I liked it a lot.
Now let's see if Letterboxd agrees with our ratings. Why don't you start us off? Because you put some screenshots down already, right?
Yeah, I just have two. This one's by Maria. I think this was the top comment. It says, "Why was this filmed with a pink Motorola Razr?" I think another
pink
one said,
Motorola Razr
this
vibes.
was filmed with like an LG refrigerator, like a smart refrigerator, which is really funny. And then this is by Scream Queen. A list of things that will always be scarier than zombies. Number 1. Men.
End of list.
End of list.
Someone, David Sims said, "Rain looks so vivid in 480p."
Wait, this one's really good. This is Jay. If I was in that situation, first thing I would have done is poo in Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, fuck the system. Amy, I think we'll probably close it out with this one. I love the two main characters, Cillian Murphy and Cillian Murphy Schlong.
He's like shirtless and like slash naked, like
30%
way more than you think he would need to be for this zombie movie.
Way more.
I'm not mad about it, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, Cillian, good for you, buddy. Good for you. And that about does it for today. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed the podcast, tell your friends about us. And don't forget to rate us 5 stars in whatever app or podcast service you use to bring on the spooks.
Please follow us on our socials by going to scarymovienights.com. Our 2 most used social media platforms right now are Instagram and Facebook. So just search Scary Movie Nights on either platform and you'll find us.
You can also message us through our socials or by sending an email to spooky@scarymovienights.com. Tell us what you think about 28 Days Later. Did you watch it? Was it your thing? How nigh is the end for you? I'm Joan.
And I'm Mariana.
And thanks for joining us for another Scary Movie Night. See you in 2 weeks.
Stay spooky.
Oh.